highest honor that Toastmasters offers. And tonight he will tell a story how a person's actions and words can have a hard or soft landing for someone they know. Please welcome Arthur Byrd.
Good evening, everyone. Charles Plum was a Navy jet pilot in Vietnam. He flew a F-4 Phantom jet for 75 to 75 missions. On the 75th mission, there was an air-to-air missile that hit his jet, F-4. He had to eject out of the plane and pull his parachute. The one thing that happened was he landed in Vietnam, or rice paddy, and he was captured, and he was a POW for 6 years. Now we flash forward. Mr. Plum was having dinner with his wife at a restaurant. A man walked over to him and says, "Are you Plum?" Mr. Plum looks at him. "Were you on the Navy carrier Kitty Hawk? Were you a pilot and were you shot down?" Mr. Plum looked at him again and said, "Yes, I was." And he looked and he didn't recognize the man. Finally, after he saw the man's confusion, he says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm the man who packed your parachute when you had to eject from that plane." Now that got me thinking, who has packed my parachute? Maybe who's packed your parachute? I know who packed mine, Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams owned Goldie's Flower Shop. I don't know how many of you are on the north side if you're driving down Belmont Avenue and see Goldie's Flower Shop. It's run by his son now, George. Every day, I lived on Guthrie Road on the east side, and he lived on Kenneth, which was right up the street. He would have his delivery van, and he would stop at the corner and he would see me, either I'd be picking up trash or sitting on the porch. He would go, "What's the word, Arthur Byrd?" And I had no word for Mr. Williams, but every time he saw me, whether it was in a crowd of people, I could be at the Dairy Queen, and he'd drive by, "Arthur Byrd, what's the word?" Now those words don't seem to matter to a lot of people. To a 10-year-old who, despite the glasses, was not the smartest in the class, was not the most athletic on the field, always picked near last, and lost a lot of girls to other guys. Those words really did a really good thing to make me feel. Because Mr. Williams saw me. He had no labels. He wasn't trying to figure out who I should be. He just saw me, who I was. So Mr. Williams packed my parachute. Another person who packed my parachute was Arthur Davis. He was my Cub Scout pack leader. Now, I thought that he worked for the post office. He was this tall gentleman, and I thought we had a connection because our both of our names were Arthur. And he showed something because in our pack 31, of course, Rice Memorial, on the east side, we had some kids who weren't, I don't want to call them bad, but weren't having a good time in Cub Scouts and tried to make everybody else's time bad. But one thing that Mr. Davis did was he showed compassion. He would talk with these kids. He would just have patience with them. And it taught me to have compassion. Not to look at someone and say they're bad, you're good, you're this, or give someone a label. It's just to have compassion, to listen. Whatever these kids had going on, he would listen. When they felt that they didn't belong, he would bring them. I don't know how many of you, as Cub Scouts, excuse me, we used to cook on coffee cans, hamburgers. I don't know if anybody did that, but that's what we did when we went camping. He made sure they had a coffee can. Mr. Davis showed compassion. One other person who showed compassion was my babysitter, Mrs. Ann. Mrs. Ann babysitted me from age 5 to 7. She lived on Garland Avenue. And I don't know how many of you know, Garland Avenue was where the McGuffin Plaza is. I'm dating myself. That became the McGuffin Mall. But what happened was, she was the lady who taught me the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And she also taught me at 5 to 6 how to read. It was sort of like reading, but looked at the pictures in the magazine. I got so good at looking because there was always car advertisements in the book. I learned all the cars. I could go down the street and name a car. One day I saw some kids going up the street. And I said to her, I said, you know what, I want to go play with them. I want to go play. She goes, you don't want to do that. She goes, you don't want to do that. Those kids are doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing. But one thing you should do always is think for yourself. You don't have to run with the crowd. Now, all 3 of those people are now gone. So, not having them, my landing, they packed my parachute, my landings have been a little bit rough. So I thought to myself, whose parachute am I packed? And I teach history of motion pictures at Youngstown State University. And it is basically an elective class. It's not the most important class. People come in there and kind of do this and give you the look, and they're totally bored until we watch the movies. But there was a student, her name was Emily. Emily used to sit on the left-hand side, a little bit back, and you would notice Emily in a crowd when she smiled. And I always would tease her, because I always tease my students in class. If they're on a basketball team, and the basketball team's not doing too well, I always tease them. Or the swim team. So Emily and I had a connection because she worked in a movie theater. So I would find out all the things, how's the movie doing, what's going on. So a few weeks into the class, she's doing all right. I look over and her face is a little sad. And I don't know. I get an email that her car is broken down. She's trying to get to Dayton, and her car broke down. Well, the car broke down a couple more times, so I went over to her and I asked her, you know, what's going on? Are you okay? It wasn't something like check up on her. And she said, she revealed to me that someone in her family had committed suicide. And that she was trying each week to get up there and make sure that they were all right. Well, a couple weeks passed and I didn't say anything to her. But one day after class, I said to her, can I talk to you for a moment? And I put my arm around her and I said, I want to tell you something. You are strong. I know lots of things are going on for you right now, but you are strong. I looked at her eyes, glistened a little bit, and she signed the attendance sheet and she was gone. A couple weeks later, I'd given an exam out. And how I do it is I stand behind the podium and they hand in their blue Scantron. Blue Scantrons, they mark in computer grades. She gave me this look, like she just smiled at me, like she was going to kick this, she had just kicked this test butt. And she did. And she did well. I am not sure if I packed her parachute. I have no idea. I never asked her. But I can tell you this, each one of you packs someone's parachute. Every one of us is in an F4 Phantom, going over. You see all these lines in this floor? They're all missiles firing at us. It could be betrayal, it could be cancer, it could be divorce, it could be anything. And you can get shot down, I can get shot down, and you have to eject. The people who talk to you, give you advice and everything, will either pack your parachute to the point where it softens or it put holes in your parachute. One thing I'm going to say is, if anything that you do is make sure that you pack someone's parachute. The way that you talk to someone, the way that you give advice. How many of you give advice that you thought was helping someone but didn't help them? The way you talk to them. I don't care if they're 3-year-olds. I've seen 3-year-olds give advice that scared me. And this 90-year-old, you're not going to make it, you have this, you have that. If you're doing that, please stop. If anything you take away from that, before you give advice that you think is going to help them because you went through it, make sure that you pack your parachute. Don't put holes in the parachute. You may not have a Mr. Williams. You may not have a Mr. Davis or a Mrs. Ann You packed a parachute. But your words, your actions towards people will make sure either they are going to land hard